Good evening and welcome to Across the Pitch. We're the soccer show for people who think Loughborough is where the New England Patriots play. Now, of course, the New England Patriots are an American football team, and the Massachusetts city that they play in is called Foxborough. But this is Across the Pitch, and not the new show that we have coming out across the gridiron. So today we will be talking about Loughborough and not Foxborough. As you may remember from last year, Loughborough is a city that is in the Midlands area of England in Leicestershire County, best known for its university. However, they do have one of our favorite non-league football clubs, Loughborough Dynamo. And you also may remember that last season we chatted with Loughborough manager Lee Attenborough, and we had a chance to actually catch up with Lee again this week, or I, Phil Kennedy, actually had a chance to sit down with Lee here this week. And this is an especially important week for Loughborough because on Saturday they will be playing Tamworth in what is the second qualifying round of the FA Cup. With a win in the game against Tamworth, they can advance further in that tournament than the club has ever before advanced in their history. So we're going to be rooting for Loughborough here on Saturday. And without further ado, let's welcome Lee Attenborough. Good morning or evening, depending on what side of the pond you're on, and welcome to Across the Pitch. My name is Phil Kennedy, and I'm here with a very special guest today. I have Lee Attenborough, who is manager of the Loughborough Dynamo. And you may have remembered Lee joining us last season as we talked about their season winding down. Today we're going to be talking about the qualifying rounds for the FA Cup. They actually have a qualifying round game coming up on Saturday, so we're going to talk a little bit about that and everything that's going on at Loughborough. Welcome to the show today, Lee. How you doing?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. Nice to be on. Nice to be on again. I'm keeping an eye on how you boys have been getting on and reading some of the articles, so it looks like you're doing well, so yeah, happy to be back.
Yeah, well, we're real happy to have you back, and like I said, there you have the qualifying round. It'll be your second qualifying round game coming up here on Saturday. We'll talk about that in a moment. Then I believe it was 2 weeks ago that you had your first qualifying round against Heather St. John's FC. That was a 1-0 win for you. Tell us a little bit about that match and how things went with that.
It was a tight game, to be fair. I mean, there's a league below us, so the pressure was on us to win. We were expected to win. I mean, they came with, they just really wanted to try and shut up shop and frustrate us. And ultimately, it didn't really matter how we played as long as we got the result. And we ended up coming out of the 1-0 win. We looked fairly solid, and we didn't really give much away, but obviously it was difficult to break them down. I think it took us till a good 20 minutes in the second half to finally do it. But ultimately, you get the 1-0 and you're happy. You just move on to the next one.
Seems like sometimes when you grind out those 1-0 wins, that those are sometimes the most satisfying because you came in, you did what you needed to do on the both sides of the ball and moved on to the next round.
Yeah, I mean, that's it. I mean, to be honest, if you keep your eye on our results, you probably know we are one of those sides that scores a lot of goals, but we do tend to ship a few in at the other end. And the last few weeks, we've worked on trying to be a bit more solid at the back. And, you can tell two games 1-0 in a row. Then we've got a 1-1 draw. So in 3 games, we only conceded 1 goal, and that was from a penalty. So we have tightened it up a little bit. But then at the same time, we've not scored as many at the other end. So it's about trying to find that balance, really. And obviously we're working on the training ground to try and do that. But yeah, I mean, the FA Cup is, like you say, it's a one-off game. It doesn't matter what the score is, as long as you get the job done. So it's just about trying to get through to the next round. But definitely showing that we're doing things right at both ends is important.
Like you said, it is a knockout tournament. And now that was the first qualifying round, but it was actually your second match in the tournament. So you guys started off with the preliminary round. And there's actually a total of, I read 644 teams in addition to the, I guess it's 90 one league teams or something like that this year because the one that fell off. But so there are 644 teams that start off, and then 32 that advance to the first round proper. What
Yep.
kind of a challenge is it to be one of those 32?
Oh, well, I mean, look, the prelim rounds really for the lower league side. So we've won a couple of games, and now we're starting to play some sides from leagues above us. So Tamworth, who we've got at the weekend, they're an ex-conference side. You guys will know it as the National Leagues, Vanarama National League. They will be a good side, and what happens then is that the round after, some leagues, teams from the league above them will come in, and then eventually the Football League sides come in. So you get your League 1 and 2 sides. I know you boys follow Accrington.
Yeah.
And sort of sides will come in the first round proper. Now, for those listeners who sort of follow the Premier League teams don't come in until the third round proper. So you get down to the 32, but then they add more teams in from the higher leagues anyway. So really, it's just about the minute trying to get through the games. I mean, Tamworth at the weekend, on paper, they'll be expected to beat us. Their fans will be expecting to beat us. It's kind of a little bit like Heather coming to us. We've got no pressure on Saturday. We're there to put up a good account of ourselves and see if we can get a result. But ultimately, they'll be favourites for it, and we've just got to try and do our best, try and do ourselves proud, and hopefully it'll be good enough to get us something.
Yeah, I mean, I think that you bring a good point there is when you are in a tournament like this and you are the lower division team that you do have that where you don't have the pressure on you. And I think a lot of times that can be an advantage because that other team has the weight of the expectation where you guys could just go out there and kind of play football.
Yeah, we can. I mean, we've got to try and enjoy the occasion. You're not going to get many chances in a football sort of career to play in the FA Cup, and I've been at this club a long time, and to be honest, usually we've gone out in previous rounds. I think this is the furthest we've ever got, or at least it's on par with the joint record. So the lads have got to enjoy it. As a staff and management, we've got to enjoy it too. But at the same time, we are there to do a job. It's not just about we're playing Tamworth. They're expected to beat us, so we're just going to turn up, enjoy the day, and roll over. We believe we can get a result out of that game. There's no doubt about that. And my message to the players is just going to be that we want to show ourselves in our best light. Don't have any regrets. If we play our best football, we give it everything we've got. We try and cut out mistakes. We'll see where it takes us. And if we win the game, obviously absolutely fantastic. And if we don't, we'll make sure that we go down swinging and that we give everything we've got to try and get something.
So you're saying that if you win Saturday, then that will be the furthest that Loughborough has ever advanced to the FA Cup?
Yeah, correct. The record, club record.
Well, excellent. So you're doing some big things there. And now one thing I did want to ask you about is you had a game earlier against Sherwood Colliery. I'm not sure if I pronounced that quite correct.
Yeah, no, perfect. Yeah, correct. Yeah, that's right.
Okay, and then so it is. It was a 2-2 draw, and I didn't see any notes about a penalty shootout. I believe that you mentioned there was a replay. How all did that work?
Yeah, I mean, it was a funny one because they came to our ground. We're really good at home. They're top of the league, 2 leagues below us. So we were massive favourites for the game. But any team at the top of any league, they've got good cohesion. They score a lot of goals. They're in good habits of not letting many in. And I always think it's a tough one to play teams that are up there, even in leagues below, because they're well drilled and well organised. And they came with loads of confidence. They give us a real run for our money, to be honest. And I think on the day I was happy to get over a 2-2 draw. We were losing the game twice, and we pegged them back on both occasions. And in the end, we just took the 2-2 draw, and it meant that we went to play their ground for a replay on the following Tuesday, I believe, trying to get my dates right. And we went to their place. They had about four. I think the crowd was something like 420, 430, which is big numbers for those leagues. And everyone was rooting for us to lose. Everyone wanted to Sherwood as the underdogs to beat us. And we went there and we put up a real good performance, and we got through again 1-0, kept it solid at the back, and Ryan Robbins, our front man, managed to nick the winner. So yeah, that was a good result and a good performance on what was a bit of a banana skin of a game.
Yeah, it sounds like you guys are really bearing down on defense at these FA Cup games. And now the FA Cup, I mean, certainly for any non-league team, it's the biggest tournament that you're going to play in any given year. And without focusing too much on the monetary aspect of things, because I do want to talk about that later, just tell us a little bit about the importance of the tournament and what advancing through the rounds means for the club in general and just things like getting the name of the club out there and maybe hopefully getting far enough to get a national TV game, those type of things.
Yeah, I mean, like you say, financially it's big for the club, but we could talk about that in a minute. I mean, from a player's point of view, from somebody who's played at the level and obviously now managing at the level, I think the FA Cup always gives you that chance to have a break from the league to something separate to focus on. Your league form goes out the window. It's a separate tournament. And we grow up as kids watching, the pros, the Arsenals, the Man United, the Man Cities, the Chelseas, Liverpool in the FA Cup week in, week out. And to know that, all right, it's only the early qualifying stages, but you're in the same competition as all those kind of teams. And it gives you a bit of a dream to cling on to. Every season in the FA Cup, there's a success story of a team from lower leagues that go to get to the first round, second round, and maybe get a big away draw and play in front of 10,000. And you've got to be very lucky and play very well to get that far. But obviously, it's a dream that you can cling on to. If you haven't got them aspirations, and there's no point in playing football. And it sort of gives your players a chance to go out there and play against teams from leagues above, prove what they're about, and show people how good they are, really. So it's good for the players. It's good experience for us as management and staff, and obviously it's big for the club to have good sides coming to our ground. They'll bring a lot of fans, give the club some exposure, and it just builds that excitement around the town as well, and on social media and things like that. So all in all, it's just completely positive. And with us getting to the round we have, earlier on when we played Sherwood and Heath, it would almost been a disappointment if we lost because we were favourites. We're that far in now that really, you'd say from a club's point of view, anything else is a bonus. But from my point of view and my staff's point of view, we do genuinely believe we can get something out of this next game. And if we can, then that'll give us so much confidence that whoever we sort of draw in the round after that, if we could get through, we'd just do everything we've got at that one as well. So just take a game at a time, but it's massive for the club, it's massive for the players, and it's just exciting to be involved in it and just to see how far you can get.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like you're at that point now where maybe if you win this game on Saturday, then you're at that level where you can kind of see the first round proper in the horizon at that point.
Yeah, I mean, if you win Saturday, there'll still be two more games, and the likelihood is we'd get some bigger teams from harder leagues, maybe the National League North or the National League, and at the minute, looking at the draw, we've had 3 home games on the road, so you'd expect that to change at some point. So you may get a real tricky away game, but then again, you might go away and play in front of a big crowd on a massive occasion for the club, and that will be equally as important for everybody as just trying to get through. So whatever happens Saturday, there's lots of positives to be taken, and hopefully we can get the result. And like I said before, not just the result, but a performance that shows in our best light and where we give everything we've got to try and prove to people how good we can be.
Yeah, I mean that's a big thing. Is any time you're in this tournament, you're going to have eyes on you that normally wouldn't be, and you want to put your best football forward. And so we didn't quite talk about the money part because, like I said, I was saving that. And now certainly this tournament has some huge bonuses, like you mentioned. Every year there's a non-league team that makes a little bit deeper run, and I believe that last year it was 250,000 quid to the non-league team that made the deepest run, and obviously that's very significant money. Now, obviously for a team 6th tier like Loughborough being the furthest advancing team may be a little bit of a stretch, but say that you were to make it to the first round proper, or even advance past these next 1 or 2 games. What kind of financial reward does that bring to the club? Is that something that could set you guys up for a year or two by winning these next 2 games and just getting that influx of cash?
Yeah, I mean, it's massively important to the club. I mean, already, in the earlier rounds, what happens is the team who wins the tie gets the bulk of the prize money from that game, but the losing team gets a little bit as well. So, I mean, already so far this season, even in the 2 games we've won, even if we didn't beat Tamworth on Saturday, we would have made the club about £10,000.
So that's nice cash there.
Yeah, it's a lot of money for a club the size of ours. It'll keep the club going for a decent amount of time, and obviously it's up to the chairman what he decides to do with that money. And if we do manage to get through the Tamworth game, you're looking at another sort of 6,500 on top of what we've won already. So yeah, it gets bigger every round, but obviously at the same time that comes with the fact that there's stronger teams in there, and it being more of an uphill task every game that you play. So yeah, we've done well so far, and I think before a ball was kicked at the start of the season, if we'd have told the club that we'd managed to get them £10,000 through the FA Cup for the FA Cup run, they'd have snapped your hand off for that, and no doubt about it, they took it. But obviously we are where we are now, and it's a one-off game Saturday where like I said, we'll just try and go and do our best and hopefully get the result.
Well, that's fantastic, because I really think that the FA Cup, one of the things that I love about it is this opportunity for the non-leagues or the lower league teams to make a little bit of cash. Like I know that, for instance, Newport County in League 2, they made a big run last year, and that really went a long way to helping them make that club solvent. And I just love seeing the underdog story, and the team that can keep the lights on because they made a good run at the tournament.
Yeah. No, I mean, there's been a couple of teams in and around our leagues who in the past have had good runs. I think Stourbridge is a good example, and Stamford are a good example of teams around our levels who progressed quite far in previous seasons, and it's given them the impetus to sort of go on. I think Stourbridge got promoted the season after, and they're now sort of top end of that league as well. Stamford have always been a strong side, so it does give you that sort of foundation to sort of progress as well. So yeah, it would be nice. And like you said, it's every season there's one or two success stories. We're going to try with it this season, try and make sure that we're somewhere in the mix for that.
Let me put you on the spot here a little bit. If somebody told you at the beginning of the season that you could either win the league and get promoted, or you could advance to the first round proper in the FA Cup, but you could only pick one or the other, which one would you pick?
Oh, that is a tough question. You've got me now. I'll tell you what, it'll probably depend who we drew in the first round proper, I'll be honest. If we got a big club from League One, that'll be hard to turn down. But at the same time, the FA Cup is on the side. It's the league games that you work for week in, week out. It's a 38-game season. You train hard every week, and I think that's your bread and butter. And I'll be honest, I'd probably take the league if I could do it.
Oh yeah, I understand that.
It's a tough one.
The league, you get the promotion, and then that carries on to the next season, and it can turn into a lot more. But now, one thing that you did kind of mention there is depending on who you play in the first round, and that was another question I had. Now say that you did make it to the first round proper. Is there a dream matchup? Would it be like a Sunderland or an Ipswich, or is there some team out there that personally you're like, I wish I could manage against that team just once type of thing?
Well, it wouldn't be Accrington Stanley, I'll tell you that.
Accrington Stanley.
No, it wouldn't be.
No, it wouldn't be. Well, I've been personally rooting for that. I want to see Loughborough, Accrington Stanley. If that happened, we would have the biggest party in Phoenix, Arizona ever.
You'd have to come over to Loughborough. I think the chairman would let you sleep on the clubhouse floor if you wanted to.
Well, that sounds like a deal.
No, I mean, look, if you're looking at in terms of biggest teams in the Football League, in League One, you've got Ipswich, you've got Coventry, I think Sunderland are in there. Portsmouth are another team, Bolton are a team that have been in the league. So, they're the biggest clubs in those divisions, and it would be a sort of dream to play a team like that. But again, first round property is a hell of a long way away for us. There's plenty of football to be played before then, and you don't get carried away. You just look at Saturday and see if we can get something from that, and then you go from there, really.
Well, speaking of Saturday, and I'm gonna help you get a sponsor drop in here. I tried to find and see if there were any odds listed anywhere for Saturday, and it doesn't look like they quite put betting odds out for this round yet. But if SportPesa.com did list odds on Saturday's game, what would the line be?
I reckon we'd be about 3-1, and I reckon Tamworth would be 4-9.
Okay, so that's a pretty common underdog line where I'd say, if you see maybe like a top of the table team play a mid-level team, it's maybe about 2.5 to 1. So that you're saying that it is probably the equivalent of a mid-level team playing a top table team, that kind of odds.
Yeah, but only because it's at our ground. If we were away, it would be probably 6s or 7s, I'd say.
I know that you guys have done real well at home this year, and kind of actually going away from the FA Cup and talking about the season a little bit. I know it's been mostly up on home and mostly down on the road so far. What do you think is causing the issues on the road right now?
I mean, I don't know. I had an interview with our media guy on Saturday, and he told us that we've not lost at home since February until this weekend. I mean, that's what, 8 months without losing at home. That's the best part of a full season. And I'll be honest with you, if I knew what the answer was, it wouldn't be a problem, because we at home we don't seem to do anything different. It's just a confidence thing. I think the players, when they're at home and they're comfortable, and because we've been on such a good run, they just get the job done. I can't really put a finger on why. It's just we just seem to get the results. If there's a bit of adversity and things go against us, we seem to dig in better. I remember there was a game last season at home to Ripley. We went down to 10 men after literally 15 minutes. We played nearly the whole game with the man down, and we beat them 2-0. And it was a performance where you just thought we knew we were going to get the result. At half time, I think we were 1-0 up, and we just knew we were going to win the game. And when we go away from home, I'm sure it's just mental. It's something mental that just stops us getting over the line. Because we've had some real good performances away. It's not been like we turn up and we don't play very well. We've been in front in a lot of games. We play well in a lot of games. We played Cleethorpes away a couple of weeks ago. We lost 5-4. I mean, it was one of the best attacking performances I think we've ever had under my management. Every time we've got the ball, we look dangerous. In spells, we absolutely played them off the park, but there's always that thing in the back of your mind that we're away from home and we've let these things slip before. I mean, the season before that, we were 3-1 up at the same club, Cleethorpes, with 2 minutes left, and we drew 3-3. And I think it's just we just need to get a couple of wins, maybe back-to-back wins away, and I think it'll all change, because I do think it's as simple as that. I mean, don't get me wrong, most teams are better at home generally. If you look over the course of the season, most teams will pick up more points at home than away. But really, there's nothing major. There's nothing major that's stopping us going and getting results, apart from maybe a bit of confidence. And teams will come at you more if you're 1-0 up and you're away, and there's a couple of hundred fans there that are getting on their backs. They'll start to turn the screw a little bit, and you've got to stand up and make sure you don't fold and crumble under the pressure. And we had a game last week where we were 1-0 up against Glossop. Got to about 75 minutes, and I think they equalised. But the whole second half, it was coming, and we got on the back foot. We weren't as aggressive, and it's kind of like the lads almost accepted that something was going to happen. We're going to concede a goal, and we've got to stop doing that. And I keep banging on about it, and we keep trying to drill things into them at training. But I've got no doubts that it will turn. It will turn a corner at some point. It just needs a couple of good results on the row, I think. Get it out of the mind in terms of it being a mental block, and then I think sky's the limit for us, because if we can keep the home form good and we can just tighten up away, we'll be a hell of a side. But at the minute, we've just not quite got that balance right.
Well, that makes complete sense what you say in terms of the confidence, and especially like you said, you had been just on such a run at home, and you do get to that point where, like you said, it's been 6-7 months since you've lost a home match. You're feeling invincible, where you go on the road and it's kind of the opposite, and certainly, like you said, I mean, it's not a problem that's unique to Loughborough. I mean, you look over in the U.S. for instance, we've got Atlanta United. They won the championship here last year in the MLS, but they're famously great on the road, or can be great at home and terrible on the road. It's just
Yeah.
like you said, it's one of those things about football where I think a lot of it has to do with just being used to your home pitch and the dimensions, and how the ball is going to travel across the grass and things like that.
Yeah, I mean, it could be. You guys won't know, but we've got one of the best pitches in the league. It's really, really good. It's conducive to getting the ball down and being able to play football. But obviously, you go away to a lot of grounds where the pitch is bobbly and the conditions are a bit different, and that can play a part. But then at the same time, I don't think you can use that as an excuse, because equally we've been to grounds with really good pitches and still not won. So it's just a strange one. I think the longer it's gone on, the more it's actually become an issue. The players are now aware of the fact that we haven't been good on the road. Rather than it just being a couple of weeks, it's now stretched over maybe the course of a whole season where we've not been so good away. I mean, we've done okay. We haven't been real poor towards the end of last season. We won 3 on the row away from home. We won the last 6 on the row in all competitions. But yeah, it's something we definitely need to iron out if we're going to be in the playoff spots, which we'd love to be. We definitely need to sort that out sooner rather than later.
Yeah, I mean, I think what you're saying is really exactly what it is, because it goes back to that whole confidence thing. And then, like you said, the longer it goes on, if it's just 2 or 3 games, it's one thing. But, once it gets to be where it's been the better part of a season, that it's been an issue, then, the players do go into every game thinking, okay, we've got this road issue. And it does become a mental thing. But I certainly remember the way that you guys finished last season off, and certainly at the start of any season, things are going to be up and down for most teams, because you're still getting that cohesiveness. Where do you expect to see that Loughborough will finish up at the table at the end of the season? Do you see yourself getting into one of those playoff spots by the time the season ends?
Well, look, 5th place is the last playoff spot.
Okay.
At the start of the season, when we've sat down as a management staff, that's the place that you've got to be targeting. There's a lot of teams in the league that pay a hell of a lot more money than we do, who can bring in players from leagues above and ex-football league players. We can't do that. So what we have to do is we have to work with a good squad that we've got, but it's a small squad. So injuries and things and suspensions affect us more so than they maybe do some of the bigger sides that can afford to 22 players on roll. And we are working with a small squad. So when you do get injuries and stuff, they can mount up. So that's one problem. And also just the fact that there are a lot of good teams in the league. We can focus on ourselves and say that we're a good side, but equally there are probably 7, 8 or 9 clubs, probably even 10 or 12 actually, who believe that they could be one of the teams that make them playoff spots. And I always say it to my players in team meetings and in team talks that it's all about fine margins at this level of football. There's lots of good teams, there's lots of good players, and on any given day, in any given game, all it takes is one good performance by one individual player, one mistake, one real quality finish, and you win the game or you lose the game. And those fine margins, you need to work hard enough every single game to make sure that they're on your side, rather than going against you, because you can't turn around every single week and say you're unlucky, and at the same time you can't turn around every single week and say you've been lucky. So you've got to make sure you work hard enough, and if you work hard enough and harder than the opposition, and you're well drilled enough and you've done your homework on the opposition, then you'd say probably 80% of the time you get the rub of the green on them fine margins, and that's what we've got to try and do. There's not many teams that will just go and knock for 6, and at the same time there's not many teams that will come to us and completely roll us over. So we'll be competitive in every game we play, but at the same time so will a lot of the teams. So we'll look at that 5th spot. That's what we're striving for. We can't really turn around and say we want to win this league, because again there's too many big clubs with big budgets to be able to say. It'd be naive to say that we want to win it, but we look at that 5th spot and think that's our ambition. If we can get there, that's a job well done for the season, definitely.
Well, excellent, and I think that that's kind of how any league is. In any given league, you're going to have your two or three top spenders that are there at the top of the table, and then you have two groups. You have a group of teams that are fighting for those playoff spots, and then a group of teams that are just fighting to stay in the league. From what I'm hearing, you're saying that you guys are solidly in that middle group that's fighting for that playoff spot. And, I think that especially seeing the way that you guys got on that run last year, that you certainly have what it takes to get there. And now you did mention of teams bringing in some former league players, and I know that you guys have a former league player because we talked to him last year, and
Yeah, true,
that's of course Luke Foster. How's Luke been? He was great when we talked to him. How's he doing this season?
No, he's good. He's a character. I mean, I think with Fozzie, everyone's got a lot of respect for him. When he talks in the change rooms, the players listen, and they can learn a lot from sort of his background and how, how professional he can be and where he's been and what he's done. So yeah, he is good. I mean, he's getting on a bit now, and he's probably saying he's got a few years left in him, and obviously hopefully he'll stay with us to see those seasons out. But like I always say, it's not about any one individual. We need to be good as a team. And with you saying a minute ago about these sort of mid-table clubs who have all got the aspirations, I always say that a good dressing room and a good set of lads who work hard is worth 15 to 20 points a season. And I do think we've generally got that in terms of the players and the squad. And hopefully with a little bit of luck, as well as some good performances and some wily pros like Fozzie and a couple of other older boys, if we can get the balance right, we'll hopefully be up there somewhere come the end of the season.
Yeah, now, one thing that you were telling me here before we started the show is that you did have one pretty big loss on the roster, and you had Carl DeMead. Is that how it's pronounced correctly?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
okay, Carl DeMead, who is a guy that scored 20 goals for you last year, and you had mentioned that he moved on to Sheffield FC and actually came back and scored against you here last Saturday.
Yeah, came back to haunt us, yeah.
Who are some of the guys that we should look for that are going to be in that striker's role now that Carl has moved on?
Yeah, I mean, when you look at people like Carl, it's difficult. In non-league where we are, you don't give out 3 and 4 year contracts like you do in the Premier League. And what that means is on any given season, come the end of the season, you're liable to lose some players, especially like say if we're not big spenders, which we're not. You're always open to losing some of your best players. And Carl's obviously moved on. The captain also, Lewis Keenan, he moved on, which was a massive shame because they were 2 players that you'd almost look to build your team around. And it means you're back to square one in terms of, the building blocks and the foundations of your team. So, already we're mid-table, but we've got a lot of improving to do, a lot of work to do. And we have brought in some good players to replace them. Maybe not as experienced as those 2, but players with a lot of ability. In terms of strikers, we've got Ryan Robbins, who did score, I think, 20 or 21 last season. Him and Carl were both up there fighting for the top scorer in the league, so he's still scoring goals. We've got Alex Stedman, who can play off the left as well. He's another experienced player. I think he scored over 100 goals at this level. And we've got a couple of younger lads in a lad called Corby Brown and another lad called Brad. And hopefully they'll all chip in. We've got players who can score goals from midfield. But overall, it's going to be a team effort. Carl obviously scored 20 odd goals. Ryan can score 20. The other strikers between them, you'd like to think, combined did get somewhere in the mid-20s. And hopefully that'll be enough to get us where we need to be.
So it sounds like you guys still got plenty of scoring punch even with Carl moving on, so that's good to hear. Now, let me ask you this: you told me earlier that you guys are more of a high scoring team, more so than a team that's going to sit back. Tell us a little bit about the tactics and formation and your style, because I don't really think that we had talked to you about that too much. Give us a little insight into what your strategy is going into a game.
I mean, for us, we always look at what the opposition do. So I'll try and do my homework on the opposition. I'll speak to managers and players who I know have played them recently. If I can go out and watch games, I'll watch games myself and try and get some information on the opposition. And sometimes we tweak what we do to try and sort of counteract what they'll do. But at the same time, you've got to try and play to your strengths. And a little bit at this level, it's about trying to fit your best players into a system. I'm not going to lie about that. There's times when I've played a shape that maybe I wouldn't usually play because I want to fit certain personnel into the team. But then at the same time, sometimes you go for a shape and you have to leave certain people out to make sure that fits. It all depends really. But I mean, for me, the way we set up is we go to attack teams, we try and get on the front foot, and we do go out to score goals. I think the main reason I do that is simple. I think to be a very good defensively organised side, you need a hell of a lot of work on the training pitch. You look at managers like your Jose Mourinho's that are known for parking the bus. There's attention to detail in the planning that they do when they're doing the defensive shape, and the work is incredible. And I think at our level, it's just difficult to get that amount of attention to detail into your training sessions. Lads are coming after work. You might train 6 till 7:30, 8:15. You've got an hour and 15 minutes. In that hour and 15 minutes, you've got to try and do your fitness work. You've got to try and do your ball work. You've got to try and do your short-sided games. You've got to try and do your set-piece stuff. And I just think you need more time to become a real good, solid, defensively sort of set-up unit. But that's me, maybe me being naive as a young manager that, there are times when we should be more defensive and shut up shop. And to be fair, last 2 or 3 weeks, we have actually done that. We've focused on not just bombing forward, making sure we've got players behind the ball at all times and players in certain positions that are just anchoring in midfield and things like that, just to give us a bit more security. But yeah, it's a mixed approach, I'd say. But more often than not, we are front foot, try and press high up the pitch and try and win the ball as high up as we can. Because I always say, if you've got 30 yards to run to score a goal, it's better than having 130 yards to score a goal. So that's the way we try
Makes
to do it.
sense to me.
Sometimes it's to our downfall. There have been times when I turned around on a Saturday night and rang the assistant manager and said, should we have done that today? Did we do this right? In fact, it's what I spend half my life doing, wondering about decisions I've made and certain things I've done, changes that I've made and subs and things like that. But at the end of the day, you live and die by your results, and I think so far in the year and a bit I've been manager, and the extra year as assistant, you'd have to say that on the whole, our record has been pretty good, and the club's without doubt made strides on the pitch. So looking at the bigger picture, I think we're doing a good job, but there are individual games in isolation where sometimes I wonder whether I've made mistakes myself, but that's all part of learning. The players make some mistakes on the pitch, we're going to make mistakes on the side, but all together we'll try and get it as right as we can, and in the long run, I think we'll get more right than we get wrong.
Well, I mean, I remember last season they were telling me that where you finished, I believe you said it tied the best finish that the club had ever had in history, and now you've got them in the FA Cup further than they've gone before. So it sounds to me like you really got things going in the right direction. And one thing that you did say in there, and I'm going to actually make this the last question here because I know that you're busy and I really appreciate your time. But one of the things that you did mention is that a lot of things come down to scouting and kind of needs and things like that. Now, that's one thing when you're playing against a team in your league where you've seen them before. But with a team like Tamworth on Saturday, have you been able to do much scouting on them, or are you going into this one kind of blind?
Well, no, it won't be blind. I've actually got a lad who played for us a couple of years ago who actually plays Tamworth on Tuesday. He plays for Barwell. So he plays Tamworth Tuesday, so I've already spoke to him and said I'll be ringing him Tuesday night, Wednesday morning to get all the lowdown information. And actually, believe it or not, whilst I've been on the phone to you, I've had a missed call from a manager who I rang earlier who actually plays in the same league. And he's also going to give me a little bit of a heads up. So hopefully we'll know a little bit about what they're going to do. But at the same time, it's a bit of, it's a catch-22. Do you play to your strength and try and impose your style on them? Or do you try and set up to try and nullify what they're going to do? And it's trying to get that right balance, really. But what we don't want to do, we don't want to sit back, soak it all up and lose 1-0 in a cup game at home. We want to go out with a bang if we're going to go out. And we think by going and attacking the opposition and almost surprising them, they'll probably expect to come to our place that will be, real tight, shut up shop and let them have all of the ball and be tough to break down. But actually, I think we'll go and get after them, and we'll try and get the ball off them and then see what they're made of. Just see if we can test them from the first minute, and we'll go from there. And if we have to adjust as the game's going on, we'll do that. But yeah, we're definitely not there to try and nick a draw. We want to go to win.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't agree more. I think that when you go into a match like this, if you go out there and you play your style and you lose playing your style, it's a lot easier to live with than losing by changing your style and not playing your game.
No, it's true. And, a couple of times when we've lost this season already, the frustrations with the players haven't been that we've lost the game. It's that we've lost the game, like you just said, without really playing our style of football. We lost against Sheffield at the weekend and we were disappointed that we didn't move the ball as well as we know we can. It's not the fact that we're bitter that we lost. You come up against teams over the course of a season at this level, you're going to lose games. I think the team that wins the league will probably lose 6, 7, maybe 8 games.
Right.
So you're not going to win them all. But obviously it's the manner sometimes. If you don't go and play your style of football, and that's what lets you down. It's not the fact you've lost. It's not the fact that they might have scored a penalty to beat you. It's the fact that you've maybe not done what you can do. And if we play our best and we stick to the game plan and the lads try and carry out the things that we ask of them, then the result will either take care of itself or we'll have no complaints if we don't win. That's just the way it is. So hopefully we can do it Saturday and get a real good performance out of the players.
Well, I'm looking forward to it, and I'm going to be following along on Twitter and rooting for you guys on Saturday. And but before we wrap up here, was there anything that I hadn't got to that you wanted to talk about today?
To be honest, off the top of my head, I can't think of anything. No, I think we're good.
Yeah, I think we went over the season a little bit. We went over the FA Cup, and I think that at this point, what we should do is just remind everybody that game will be coming up this Saturday morning U.S. time and Saturday afternoon at about 3 p.m. Is it?
Yeah, it's 3 p.m.
3 p.m. Yeah, 3 p.m. UK time, and the games are usually kind of live fed out on Twitter. So if you just go to the Loughborough Dynamo Twitter feed, then you follow along, and that's how I kind of keep up with you guys from over here. And I hope to see you get a win and then move on to that third qualifying round, and then keep winning, and then we'll have that big Loughborough versus Accrington Stanley match.
We can hope so. That'd be brilliant. Say a prayer for us.
Well, I will. I'll get in touch with you here later on this season, and we'll maybe talk again. Hopefully, as you guys are making a run into the playoffs.
Yeah, more than happy to anytime. More than happy to be on the show. No problem.
Well, I really appreciate it. You have a great week, and go Dynamo.